All right. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
We are back. We are going to be continuing with our look at the triennial Torah portion. We're right now looking at the book of Leviticus. Let me go ahead and flip over to here. We are today going to be looking at Leviticus chapter 6. Leviticus chapter 6, we're going to be looking at. We're going to be dealing with talking about your neighbor. Your neighbor. If we think about it, what we'll begin to look at here in the beginning of chapter 6 actually is kind of like a continuation from last chapter. You know, the chapters and verse separation, you know, is something that wasn't in the original text, right? You just had a big block of words and things together, right? And so even though we look at this as being chapter 6, the beginning part of chapter 6, as we'll see, kind of corresponds with what we talked about on last week. And we want to look at a few other things in regards to them. We're going to go ahead and pull up the scriptures. I think what we'll do is just go ahead and we'll go ahead and read through the chapter, and then we'll go back and we'll talk about some of the key points that we want to deal with, specifically, dealing with, as I said, dealing with your neighbor. Okay, your neighbor. All right, so let me go ahead and pull up the scriptures over here. We want to remember to have everyone leave a comment, hit the thumbs up, share the video, hit the notification button. Okay, we want to be able to get we want the words to get out, right? And we want people to continue to be able to have access to what we're doing over here, right? And so we want to say that first. And we'll go ahead and pull up the verses over here, and we'll have Hiskey go ahead and begin to read. If you go ahead, let's see, you might as well, like I said, just go ahead and read the whole chapter, and then we'll come back and deal with it after the fact. So go ahead and start looking at nice and loud verse 1.
And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, when any being sins and committed a trespass against Yahweh and has lied to his neighbor about a deposit or about a pledge or about shall extort from his neighbor, or has found what was lost and has lied concerning it, or did swear falsely, so that he sins in the regard to any one of all these that a man does. Then it shall be, when he sins and shall be guilty, that he shall return what he took by robbery, or what he has extorted, or the deposit which was deposited with him, or the lost item which he found, or all that about which he swore falsely. He shall repay its total value, and add 1/5 more to it, and give it to him to whom it belongs on the day of his guilt offering. Then he brings his guilt offering to Yahweh and a ram, a perfect one, from the flock with your valuation as a guilt offering to the priest. And the priest shall make atonement for him before Yahweh, and he shall be forgiven for whatever he did that made him guilty. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, "Command Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the Torah of the ascending offering. This is the ascending offering, because it is burned on the slaughter place all night until morning, and the fire of the slaughter place is kept burning on it. And the priest shall put on his linen garment, and put his linen trousers on his body, and shall take up the ashes of the ascending offering which the fire has consumed on the slaughter place, and shall put them beside the slaughter place. And he shall take off his garments and put on other garments, and shall bring the ashes outside the camp to a clean place. And the fire on the slaughter place is kept burning on it; it is not put out. And the priest shall burn wood on it every morning, and arrange the ascending offering on it, and shall burn on it the fat of the peace offerings. Fire is continually kept burning on the slaughter place; it is not put out. And this is the Torah of the grain offering. The sons of Aaron shall bring it near before Yahweh in front of the slaughter place, and shall take from it with his hand from the fine flour of the grain offering, and from its oil, and all the frankincense which is on the grain offering, and shall burn it on the slaughter place for a sweet fragrance and its remembrance portion to Yahweh. And then Aaron and his sons eat the rest of it. It is eaten with unleavened bread in the set apart place. They eat it in the courtyard of the tent of appointment. It is not baked with leaven. I have given it to them as their portion of my offerings made by fire. It is the most set apart, like the sin offering and the guilt offering. All the males among the children of Aaron eat it. A law forever in your generations concerning the offerings made by fire to Yahweh. All that touches them is to be set apart. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, This is the offering of Aaron and his sons, which they bring near to Yahweh, beginning on the day when he is anointed. 1/10 of an ephah is of fine flour, as a daily grain offering, half of it in the morning and half of it in the evening. It is made on a griddle with oil. Bring it in mixed. Bring the baked portions on the grain offering near, a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. And the anointed priest from among his sons, who is in his place, prepares it, a law forever to Yahweh. All of it has to be burned. And every grain offering for the priest is completely burned; it is not eaten. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, This is the Torah of the sin offering, in the place where the ascending offering is slain. The sin offering is slain before Yahweh; it is most set apart. The priest who is making atonement eats it in the set apart place; it is eaten in the courtyard of the tent of appointment. All that touches its flesh is to be set apart. And when its blood is sprinkled on any garment, you wash that on which it was sprinkled in a set apart place. But the earthen vessel in which it is crooked is cooked is to be broken. And if it is cooked in a bronze pot, then it is skewered and rinsed in water. Every male among the priests eats it. It is most set apart, and no sin offering from which any of the blood is brought into the tent of appointment to make atonement in the set apart place is eaten. It is burned with fire.
Okay, very good. So we want to go ahead and talk a little bit about some of these things. For the most part, we see with this chapter, it deals with this burnt offering, and also this, the sin offering, which actually is a burnt offering. Remember when we look back in the beginning of Leviticus, where it talks about this, the burnt offering in general, And now we're seeing that, all of these different offerings are, actually burnt offering. They burn the sin offering. They burn, the guilt offering. They burn the grain offering. These things that they put on the fire and burn up. Some of them, as it says, the priest was able to partake in, and some of them, were burned up completely. And so, one thing before we look at the main thing that I wanted to talk about is the fact that it talks about this altar, the that is burned, the where the altar, the slaughter place. It says that it is. Let's see where it says it at. If we go up, let's see here. Fire consume, put on the garments, burn. Oh, it says in 13, fire is continually kept burning on the slaughter place. It is not put out. And just, it just made me really think about the fact that when we have this slaughter place, this place, where the offerings were brought, where it's supposed to be burning, continually, morning and evening, always burning, always on fire, always ready to receive an offering. Okay, always ready to receive an offering. There's times when the Most High required for there to be an offering, right? The morning and the evening, right? At morning, at evening, there was something that was supposed to be brought, but this fire needed to always be ready, for something to be offered to the Most High. And it really just caused me to think about the fact that you sometimes when we deal with these people, and there's like there's hours, right? There's time schedules. We sit up here and we rush to get over to this place or that place to make sure we can get there before they close.
Mhm.
Right? How many times you rushing home from work, that the store closes like at such and such time, and you barely get over there, or maybe you don't even get over there, right? But this offering, this slaughter place, right? This place that was set up for worship for the Most High. There wasn't no set hours, right? When you wanted to do the things that was necessary, to meet with the Almighty, right? You went and you did that, right? Whenever you felt it, in your heart, because again, all of these things that were brought, all of the offerings weren't sin offerings. We happen to be talking about sin offerings, or burnt guilt offerings, with this chapter. But sometimes it was just from the out of the abundance of your heart is what you brought. I want to offer this thing unto the Most High, right? And when you felt that kind of pulling, you went and did it, right? It wasn't about I got to meet with the Most High, but I think he closes in 5 minutes, right? And I'll never make it. Right? That's not what the thing was. And so I just thought it was interesting when we look over here in verse 13, in terms of the fire, like unto the fire that is on the menorah. The fire is kept continually burning, right? Just like the light of the menorah, thinking about what it represents in terms of the, inside of that holy place, the only light that shines is the light of the menorah, right? And so that light always needs to be burning, right? The only light that there is the light of the menorah. And we think about the fact that, Yeshua, the menorah being kind of exemplary of Yeshua, right, for us, right, and we carry His light, right, and the only light that we carry is the light that we receive from Him, right, but that light can't never go off. And the same thing is true in terms of the our sacrifices, the things that we offer unto the Most High, our worship towards Him, right? Our adoration towards the Most High is never closed, right? That time is He's always open for business, right? In terms of being able to receive what it is that we have to give to Him, right? And so when I looked at verse 13, it just caused me to think about that. But we want to go back. Before that, talking today, we're talking about your neighbor, right? We're talking about your neighbor. So we want to see over here, because we're able to learn from these verses that there's a way that we should be dealing with our neighbor, right? And there's ways that we shouldn't be dealing with them, right? But we see those things right over here. So we want to go back over here and look at some things. The first thing we want to think about, if we go back up to verse 2, where it says, when any being sins, again, we look at this, the scriptures version has this word here translated as being. I believe the King James says soul. Matter of fact, let me just bring up some of our tools here, because we want to look at some words. We want this one.
The sad thing is that, our light run off of what we get from y'all. Some people's light run on AAA batteries. That's sad, though.
Well, yeah, AAA batteries, them things don't last very long.
No, they be the cheap ones.
And so we got to be able to understand that, if we living based off of our own strength and power, they're gonna die real quick. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing like having your little radio playing. You know what I'm saying? Nothing like having your little radio playing and jamming to your radio. The next thing you know, your battery done died.
Yeah.
Right? And so the Most High, that light that we receive from Yeshua, right? That's not that, right? He's the original Energizer Bunny, right? That he just the original. He just keep going and going. But when we look over here in verse number 2, this word over here, we talked about this. Okay, this is nefesh, the soul, right? But we want to talk about this sin, which is kata, which we talked about this the other week. This word means to miss the mark, right? And we talked about kata in a way where, as a target, we were striving to hit the target and then we missed, right? And so that's sin, to miss the mark. We thought about it in that way, but I think we can also think about it just in, along the ideas of just having missed the mark, right? Not necessarily the idea of trying to hit the mark, but just thinking about the idea of the state that you are in as a result of having missed the mark, right? And so we're not dealing with trying to hit it, right? We're not thinking about that aspect. We're just thinking about the state that you're in as a result of missing. Okay. And so it gets specific over here, and it says, and committed a trespass. Committed a trespass. So that's what we wanted to look at, because I thought this was interesting, because essentially when you look at these words, if you could tell even just by the Strong's numbers, are basically the same word, right? 4603, 4604, right? They're right next to each other in the lexicon. Let's look at them here. Ma'el, right? To cover up, use only to act covertly, acting covertly, that is treacherously transgress, commit, do a transgression. Okay, so an interesting thing over here when we look at this is I'm trying to think about, and the reason why I began talking about the idea of thinking about kata as that state of having missed the mark, because when we think about some of the things that are connected with this word over here, ma'el, is that to act covertly, right? I'm kind of, if it's a covert mission, right? I'm sneaking around, right? I'm trying not to get caught, right? I'm trying to not be seen, right? I'm doing something and I don't want somebody to know that I'm doing it, right? If it's covert. Well, that's just me thinking about it. Let's see. Let me pull that up here. If we looking at this 4603, let's look at this over here, because let's see, cover up, covertly. Here we go. Let's see here. Secretly, closely, in private, insidiously. That's an interesting word there. Insidiously. I don't even know what that word means. With intention to ensnare. Wow. Interesting. Treacherously, with malicious artifice, or stratagem, right? You done sat up here and you came up with a plan, right? You came up with this strategy. You're over here strategizing to do this or that, and having for it to be covered up, right? And we know that these are the things that are connected with what is being done, because we look over here where it says committed a trespass against Yahweh and has lied to his neighbor, right, about a deposit or a pledge or a robbery, or shall extort from his neighbor, right? All of these things we're talking about things where covertness is part of all of this, right? Secrecy, covering up is part of this, right? If you lied about a deposit, right? If you lied about a pledge that you've made, right? Robbery, you've taken something, right? And so all of these things are things that they include covertness, right? They include what's our word of the day? They include insidiousness, right? You behaving insidiously, right? All of these things. And so when we look again at the verse, if a soul sin and commit, that's our word, ma'el, commit a trespass. Again, we look at this, ma'el is the same word, right? It's essentially the same word over here, right? And so if you look at that, I believe if we were to see that in the Hebrew, I'm pretty sure it said here, I don't have to think about it. I think I have a Hebrew text over here, don't I? Yeah. So where is it? Verse. Let's see. Ma'el. Wait, where is it? Let's see here. I don't even see it over here. Moshe. La Amar. I'm looking for the word that we're looking at here, Ma'el. And I don't even see it here in the text. Interesting. What? Sometimes these numbers don't line up in terms of the King James scripture in this here. I don't see this in here.
62.3.
The point that I'm getting at over here is that to bring across this idea of committing a trespass is basically using the same word over and twice over here. So it would say ma'al, the ma'ala is what it would say. And so so if we was to think about it from an English kind of a standpoint, where it says and committed a trespass, it's basically saying and trespassed a trespass, basically, right? You've done this thing that's put you on the other side of the line, right? It's taking you from being on the right side and put you on the wrong side. And also when we look at this word over here, let's see if we can see the connection here. It's 4603. 46. I want to look at 4608. Let's see here. Oh, this is the word that should be in the text. If I was
15,
but look at what it's connected to, right? It's connected to Allah. Right?
Oh my goodness. Not him again.
The burnt offering, right? The ascending offering, right? And so the word that's being used, there's a connection that could be made to what this is anyway, is this particular offering that's getting burnt up, that's rising up. And so if we think about what goes on inside of us as we begin to think of our insidiousness, right? As we begin to come up with these different plans or what have you that we devise in order to fulfill our various plots against this one or that one, right? Something inside of us has to kind of rise up, right? And so we can see that even in the word um ma'ala, ma'ala, which is kind of the action version of this whole trespassing thing, right? This um, this committing of the trespass, right? And so again, when we look at this, it's interesting that when we look at this, what's happening over here when a soul sins, when a soul has missed the mark, when a soul is in the state of having missed a mark and committed this trespass against Yahweh. He committed this trespass against the Most High. Okay, so, but the things that he describes over here, the lie to his neighbor about a deposit or about a pledge or about a robbery or some type of extortion or so on and so forth. All of these things got to do with what the person has done to another person. But the first thing that it says over here is when any being sins, when a soul is found in this state of having missed the mark and commits this trespass against Yahweh, it mentions the Most High first. Right. And so when we think about the idea of lying to our neighbor, of about a deposit or a pledge or a robbery, right? Any of these things, the first thing that we've done over here is trespassed against the Most High. Before we even deal with the specifics of what we've done to someone in the flesh, we have to think about what it is that we've done to the Most High, because he's mentioned first over here. But it don't talk about nothing that we did per se against the Most High, right? It's not like talking about idolatry or using his name in vain, right? Or denying his essence or power or abilities about this or that, right? It's talking about what you've done to a human. But the first thing it says is what? Against the Almighty. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because when we think about it, we're not able to do a thing, a sin against man without sinning against the Most High, right? We could sin against the Most High without sinning against man, but we can't sin against the Most High. I mean, we can't. We every time we sin, we sin against the Most High, right? Every time we find ourselves in a state of having missed the mark, no matter who it is that we've offended, we've always offended the Most High, right? And so when we look at these things again, where you would think, well, things, this is how I deal with him. It don't have to do with how I feel about the Most High. I love the Father. I love him. But this guy over here, like, I can't take this guy, right? I'm not going to deal with him straight up, right? I got to I'll do some insidiousness when I deal with this guy. But I love the Most High, right? Right, but you're not able to say that, right? I'm not able to look over at this person over here who's my neighbor and say, I love the Almighty, right? My life is just all about Him. But this guy, I can't really like. I don't mess with him like that. I'm gonna treat him however I just want to treat him, right? I'm gonna go ahead and take from him. I'm gonna act like I'm giving him what this thing is worth, but really is not, right? I'm not gonna keep my word, my pledges with him. I'm gonna extort him sometimes. It ain't no big deal. But the most high though,
Yeah.
I love the Father.
Love the Father.
Right? And so the most high said, nah, you trespassing against me.
Remember when Yeshua said
What he said?
so, why you persecute me? And he was like, what do you mean? I ain't doing nothing to you.
Mhm.
When you persecute my people, persecute me. People forget that. When you persecute my people, you persecute me. When you ridicule, shoot down my people, empower my people, and you're doing it to me. Where is the love? That's the foundation.
All right, let's go back to Bereshit 1 and 27. What's that say right there?
And Elohim created the man in his image. In the image of Elohim, he created him. Male and female, he created them.
Okay, very good. So we gotta think about the fact that the Most High, when He created man, He created us in His image. And we think about being created in His image is not about these wonderful. Or let me flip to the screen over here. It's not about these wonderful looks over here, right? When the Most High created me in His image, right? It's not about this, this wonderful face, right? That's not what it is, right? It's more about His character, right? It's more about the fact that when He created these things, we'll say, to be representatives of Himself, and He created us to walk around, and when we're seen, just kind of like how Yeshua walks. If you seen me, you seen the Father, right? Well, Yeshua, he's the standard, right? He's the pattern, right? And so when we think about this idea of being in the image of Elohim, right? We're supposed to be walking around in His likeness. And so what we understand to have happened over here in the garden, when Adam and Hava, they go astray, right? They bring perversion to the image, right? Not to say that they no longer are in the image of the Most High,
Right.
because that's the way in which He created man, right? And then there wasn't like some type of metamorphosis that happened whenever they transgress. That's not what happened.
Right.
In fact, when we look at Genesis and everything that did happen, the Adam and Hava, they had inside of them already something that caused them to go in another direction other than what the Most High had put there. And so and He created them. He said that they was good, right? But even still inside of them was this ability to say, I know what the Most High said, but I'm going to do this over here. And before they actually done it, the Most High said, this thing that I made is good, right? And so we can't say, well, after they've made that decision now they're no longer in the image, right? They're actually what we do is mar the image. What we do is fall short of our purpose, but it's not as if our purpose don't change. Our purpose forever from creation is to uh, walk and manifest the character of the Most High. And so, we sometimes fall short of our purpose, but that don't change what we're supposed to be doing, right? If I got a hammer, it's forever a hammer. I might not even use it like a hammer all the time, but that don't mean that it's not a hammer. That's what it is. Just because I misuse it, don't change what it is, right? And so, this is something that we have to think about in terms of this idea of doing something to man, and yet and still is transgressing against the Most High. Because as soon as we go outside of the thing that he purposed us to do, no matter what that thing is, we're transgressing against the Almighty, right? And so what the Torah does is it brings us back in focus, right? The Torah brings us back to our purpose. And we're seeing an example of that over here when we look at these verses where the Most High is showing these people over here how to behave with their neighbor, right? With their brothers, right? With their kinfolks. And so okay, so when we look over here, let's go back to Leviticus chapter 6. Shalom. Let's go back to chapter 6, because we're dealing with over here when we commit a sin against Yahweh, when we commit a trespass against the Almighty. And again, in the context, we're not doing anything towards him specifically. In terms of the list over here, we're not doing anything against him. But when we think about, again, what it is that we're doing, we're not representing the character, the image of the Almighty. So we absolutely are doing something against him, right? And so that's very important when we think about this, right? We can't kind of it's actually double-minded really to think about it in the way like how I was saying, where I talk about the way that I feel towards the Almighty, and yet the way that I deal with certain people, specifically my neighbors, like I'm able to make a separation. Right. Where I sit up here and say, well, I love the Most High, but I'm gonna deal with him this way.
You turn your righteousness on and off. You selectively.
Yeah. And specifically now we speaking about our neighbor, right? And so, you can't use this righteousness. There's no switch on it, right? It's always on, right? As an electrician, right? When we sit up here and we do certain work, for the most part, we want to turn the power off whenever we deal with it, right? But sometimes when you deal with certain things, you can't turn it off, right? You got to work it hot, right? That's what we call it. But if we're talking about walking in righteousness, right? You always working hot.
Mm-hmm.
You always working hot. You can't turn the righteousness off, right? And so when we think about Leviticus chapter 6 and verse 2, this person over here done turned something off because it says that he has lied to his neighbor about a deposit. Hey, look, man, if you want to do this thing over here, I'm gonna need like 500. Meanwhile, it's only like 250. Right? But I'm talking to my neighbor, like, I got to have that 500, and then we could move forward from that. Right? You guilty over here. Or about a pledge. Look, man, I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna do this thing. No problem. I'm gonna take care of that for you. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna take care of that for you. You know what I'm saying? That's my word. I'm gonna take care of it for you. And you don't do it, right? You done lied about it, right? Or you over at your people's place and you see something that's just calling out to you. Oh man, that's nice. While he in there, I'm gonna go ahead and put that in my pocket. Right, robbery. But you talk about your neighbor, though. Extorting people, right? Extorting people, right? I got look. You remember that one time when I seen you over there in that uncomely situation? Yeah. Well, I won't tell nobody about it if you give me 500. Otherwise, I'm telling everybody. I'm putting it on Facebook. Right? But we talk about your neighbor, though. Right? This don't make any sense over here. Because actually, I can't think about who you supposed to treat like this. I don't know who you supposed to treat like this, but your neighbor, you're not supposed to treat like this.
Oh, you don't treat nobody.
I was saying, if in fact you're able to put somebody in the category of being treated like this, I'm saying that the neighbor ain't it.
So what the camps is going to say, right? They're going to say that the person that lived next door, who might be, from a different nation, that ain't their neighbor.
Yeah.
They're talking about neighbor being in the context of their nation.
We could talk about that. But what I first want to do is the simple fact that the Most High had to sit up here and say this means that they was potentially dealing with their nation like this. Right? We gonna get into who is your neighbor.
Right.
But just to start off with, the Most High had to put certain parameters around things that you should and should not be doing with your neighbor. And I'm saying that he had to do that because people was obviously overstepping their situations. I want to, let's see, what we want to look at is, this is verse 2. Let's see what this says over here. This is the word for neighbor, amit. Amit. Primitive root meaning to associate. Associate, that's so general, right? I can associate with people that's at work, right? I can associate with those people. I wouldn't call them my neighbor.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have any feelings for or against. It's like totally like I have long lasting relationships with people and they're kind of still just neutral, like
Exactly.
it's just a neutral kind of a thing, right? Because it's like work. It's like I have it in a category. It's work that's over there. I deal with them like this. If the next day they get fired, man, that's messed up. All right,
Pass
so
me that.
yeah,
Exactly. What's the next?
you know, it's like they're in like a specific box, I would say, associate, right? But look over here, also it's saying companionship though, which is a lot different than an associate, right? Companionship, like or comrade, kindredman. Really, let's see. Fellow neighbor. The only thing that they got on here that's different really is associate, which is interesting because it almost don't even fit. Let's look at this. Let's see what it says. If we look at this, how it's used. Let's see. This word's used 12 times. 7 times neighbor. Another 2 times neighbors, fellow. All right, let's look at this one here. What's that one say there? Verse 7.
O sword, awake against my shepherd, against the man who is my companion. Declares Yahweh. Opposed, strike the shepherd and let the sheep be scattered, but I shall turn my hand upon the little ones.
Okay, so there is used. The scriptures is giving you companion. It says fellow in the King James, where it's giving you really an idea of it's someone that's there's closeness. What's a different one? Oh, this one here, another. Let's see.
Do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive one another.
Okay, so that's the word there. And what's this one?
Press another, but you shall fear your Elohim.
Okay, so is the 2 times that is used in a general way. The 2 times that is used in a general way, there's boundaries around the one in which it's speaking of. It's not just someone that we would think of as an associate that's in that kind of neutral area over here.
Yeah.
What's these people saying over here? Let's see what this says here. I think we're looking at associate as a modern term because I would choose to not associate with anyone who does not follow this thing. I'd much rather only be associated with yeah. Yeah. And I think when we put associate with those other things, it's bringing it closer to the companion and further away to the way that we think about associate, because it's not used in like a general sense. It's used in a way that deals with somebody who you have close ties with, that you're connected to, that as far as the Most High, you're expected to deal with them in a particular way. And so when
or it could be like how for instance, say a big congregation, everybody ain't close with everybody.
Yeah.
You know, like, and we think about this as a tribe, this is a big population of people. You ain't gonna be close to every. You can't be close to everybody. So like, I know this brother or this sister.
Yeah.
But we associate. But I'm still ain't gonna do no wicked to you.
Well, it's that second part though. It's that second part though. Is that you may not have like a closeness, but even still, there's things that in terms of this whole neighbor situation, there's things that you still gonna do for that one because of the connection that you do have. Which even if it is the only connection that you have is the fact that you belong to one particular group.
Right.
And that's really, he messes with them people that I don't hardly
Deal with.
even speak to all like that.
Yeah.
But if it come down to it,
Yeah.
like I heard people talking about, I guess from a kind of carnal perspective, people in a big neighborhood.
Right.
Maybe within the neighborhood, there's fighting that goes on inside of the neighborhood. But let somebody from the outside come in
It ain't happening.
and you know, everybody be against the person who
Yeah.
don't belong there. Like,
You ever heard somebody say, "No, you can't talk to him that way"? I could. I can talk to Chris that way. You can. If you do, I'm gonna send you in. That's like Chris, what you said before a while ago when he was like, you know, for y'all love the world. Who is the world? You know, we was talking about that. One time they'll talk about the reason, the world in that time period. Those people. It's not like he went to Japan or something. You know, like who's your neighbor? What did the Messiah say when he was on the tree? Who is my mother, my father, my brother? Who is my mother and my brother? Those who follow the wills of my father is my mother and brother. You feel me? Who is your neighbor? Such people. But sometimes you gotta wake them up too now. You know? Very true.
what you want to say? I can't remember now. Okay, so what we see over here in these verses is that the Most High expects for you to deal with your neighbor a specific way, right? There's a way that you're supposed to a prescribed way that we're supposed to deal with our neighbor. Let me see. I want to look at this word amit in the ancient, which is the word is ein. It's a mem. It's a yod, amit, and a tav. And then so we looked at this in the ancient, the ein, of course, is an I. Mem.
See, you doing that with a mouse, right? With your finger.
Yeah.
You bad with that.
It's not very easy. The yod looks like this. And the tav is just a mark. Okay. So when we think about this over here, the ein, of course, is giving you the idea of the eye, or something that is seen, something that is known, right? Something that has been revealed because you saw it, right? And then we see over here the mem, which is water, but it's also blood. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's also the mem is might, right? So we have the idea of might, we have the idea of blood, and we have the idea of that which is known. Actually, if we was to just take this part of it, just the ein and the mem, that word is people or nation. Okay. And so we could almost just deal with that right there. But adding to that, the idea of this word over here, which, as I said, if we just was to cut this in half, gives you people or nation, right? We have the yod, which is added to it, which is the arm and the hand, which is where your strength comes from, what you do work with, right? You work with your hand, right? And so when we think about the eye, we think about the eye that sees and knows, and the might and the blood, right, which gives you the idea of relationship or relatives, right? And then works, right? We talked about working, people that you work with, but you talking about working with your blood and the people that you know, right, and have close relationship with. And then the tav is really just a sign or a mark of what you already dealing with. And so when we think about this word meet, this is translated as neighbor. I'm saying that I think that it's safe to be able to kind of separate a loose association from this, and where it's a tight, it's a close association, in terms of, again, the way in which that you're supposed to be dealing with your neighbor. Okay, so let's look at some other scriptures over here that talk to us about how we deal with our neighbor. Because we, I mean, we could know that this is stuff that you ain't supposed to be doing over here. That's on this list over here.
I don't know why it is hitting me. It's crazy that we gotta be taught this.
I know.
I don't know, for some reason this is hitting me like we really gotta be told to not do this. This is it don't seem natural. That's the thing. I mean, like, but maybe it is that, but I don't know. It's just like, wow, like, you really, because people out here don't know this.
Yeah.
That's what's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and they not only treat people who in their minds think they should be treating like that.
Mm-hmm.
They treat them like that, but they treat people that's supposed to be their neighbors like that too.
Right.
We haven't shown that you could treat anybody like this. But I'm just saying, if in fact there is a group of people that you are able to treat like this, it's not your neighbor.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what we're going to say right now at this point. We'll talk more later about who the neighbor actually is. But whoever the neighbor is, there's a way that you're supposed to deal with it.
It's like you can't tax your own people, but you can tax the heck out of a Gentile.
Look, we already there. We already there.
That's right.
We're going to talk about it. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's see where it's at. Let's look at verse 13 and 15. 13 and 15. What's that say?
Sirach 13:15. Every beast loveth his like, and every man loveth his neighbor. Keep going.
Actually, just read 14 and through 16.
Okay, it says, love the Yah all thy life, and call upon him for thy salvation. Every beast loveth his like, and every man loveth his neighbor. All flesh consorteth according to kind, and a man will cleave to his like.
Okay, so when we think about this part over here, it kind of helps us. 16 helps us with 15. Okay, every beast loves his like. You don't even gotta tell the beast to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? According to what we're looking at, every beast loves his like. It's giving you a broad brush stroke, a statement. Every beast loves his like. Every man loves his neighbor. He's giving you this in terms of this is the general sense. This is how it's supposed to be,
Right.
right? All flesh consorts according to it. All flesh, those that you're like, you deal with those ones, right? And a man will cleave to his like. This is the natural kind of scope of things.
Yeah.
This is how it should be. Now, we look over in Leviticus chapter 6, we see that it ain't always like that. There's problems, there's bumps in the road because people sit up here because in Israel, all Israel is alike, right? You should be cleaving to them, but the Most High saw that it was necessary to tell Israel, don't sit up here and be robbing your people. Don't sit up here and be extorting your people. Don't be lying about your deposits.
That's why you talk about my kids. Like, this is the same stuff I'm telling them. Like,
do you think he was instructing them for future generations or for that particular generation right there?
Well, I think that is both. I think that is both because when you think about I'm saying first for future generations, yes, because when we look in scripture tells you to sit up here and impress these words, the words of the Torah, to your children. Right? When it talks about, it's interesting that we think about the Sabbath, and then the thing that comes after it in the Ten Commandments is the Sabbath, and then honor your father and mother so that your days may be long. And so there's a connection with this thing that we do, this covenant, this sign between the Most High and his people, and then the parents, the ones who continue the traditions, right? And so calling for the children to honor the traditions that are handed down from the parents. And in this case, we're talking about the traditions of righteousness. And so having it in place, I'm saying that having it in place, yes, is dealing with the future generations. But at the same time, I can't see how, unfortunately, it probably was for the current people to say, this is how you're supposed to be. And make sure the way that I'm telling you to be, you keep on telling your people to be like this too. Like I would want to say that it was only for the future and these people were perfect, but we already know that they
It was coming out of my mouth. I
remember. Unfortunately, we're looking over there in Leviticus, then we see over here in these wisdom books over here, where if it's something that's written, it's something that people need to know about.
It's like me in the football. Like you ever play football or basketball and you're on a team, they give you that little pep talk. We are a team. We are a family.
Yeah.
We work together. We practice together. We play together. Do not. Then they give you do nots. Fight amongst each other. Do not do this. Blah, blah.
In that same group, in that same crowd,
Yeah.
You'll have some people who buy in to the coach saying that.
Yeah.
And you'll have the other people like, here we go again.
Yeah, here we go again.
Not really wanting to even hear it.
Right.
I mean, and you see that playing out today. You have those who want to hear it, who want to learn, and you have those who don't. Who feel they already know, like, okay, all right. Even your children, okay, daddy, yeah, sure.
Yeah. And it's important. It's so important as Israel. And again, when we think about the idea of being operating in the likeness and the image of the Almighty and returning to his original purpose for us. We do that through walking out the Torah. We do that by allowing the Spirit inside of us to cause us to do His will and His ways. And His will and His ways, this is what it looks like. It looks like not stealing from your neighbor. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And so it's easy. People get offended and get all tight whenever you sit up there and talk to them about things that they're doing that's obviously not of the Father. But He gave us His law and His instructions that gives us a perfect picture of what the things that He likes looks like.
That's why it's written down. That's why this stuff's written down, because you'll try to explain, even if there's proof of it, that even though we know in us, we probably wouldn't be like this, but the people that are, there's like a document this is from the Most High. He said not to do this. I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking to maybe sway and convert them, because it's that's what it has to be.
Yeah. We're able to look and identify carnality, and we're able to weigh it against something that's spiritual, which the law is spiritual. The law is good. We're able to look at the scriptures and say, this is what the scriptures say. This is what you're doing. There's a discrepancy here. Right?
Scales tipped.
Yeah. Right. And it's not my opinion.
This is your judge.
This is
the judge.
This is the judge. He is the judge, right?
Both.
And so I'm able to sit up here and say, if I'm supposed to deal with you a certain way, as the scriptures say, I'm according to what we just looked at in Sirach, that's how we natural beasts love their kind.
Yeah.
So does a man love his neighbor. But I gotta sit up here and fall out with you about this or that, and put you on the outside, put you in this outside category, which we haven't found out if we even able to have an outside category like that or not. But I put you there where I'm able to just deal with you any kind of way. But I'm able to just categorize you as that. But the Most High, He's talking to Israel. It's interesting. He's talking to Israel about how we're supposed to deal with Israel. And so, under the way that we're thinking about this, if we're going to go be at the place where I'm saying I'm Israel and you Israel, then you're my neighbor. And then I can only deal with you in this way. I can't put you on the outside and you still be Israel. You must not be Israel no more. If I'm going to deal with you in a certain kind of way. Oh, he Israel, but.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Or maybe I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's either, I'm saying you can't have it both ways. Right? Either you Israel or you not Israel. But I can't sit up here and treat you like you're not Israel, but then in the same breath say, oh, well, yeah, he Israel, but right? Because there's a way that I'm supposed to deal with you. What does Sirach 27:18 say?
Or as a man hath destroyed his enemy, so hast thou lost the love of thy neighbor.
There's a love that goes with being a neighbor. Over here, it's talking about that love being lost.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that it naturally is supposed to be there already. The natural thing for you to have is love for your neighbor, for your kindred, for your comrade. for your companion, for your associate, the way that we thinking about it. Right? There's a love that's automatic there, where I'm not going to deal with you a certain kind of way because of the fact that you're my neighbor.
And well, they say love your neighbor as you love yourself.
That's
When you put it like that,
Wow.
how much do you love yourself? Like
that's the thing.
Or I'm not looking at you.
I'm just you saying a lot just when you just sit up there and say operate your
Some people love themselves a whole lot. And they gonna treat themselves right by taking advantage of you. So they're gonna take what you got because they love themselves so much.
Yeah.
They're gonna take what you got and give it to themselves.
I wouldn't call it love. I would call it pride. Even though we use the word love, because what's love?
Yeah.
If you love yourself, you going.
Yeah, love don't do all that, but I do see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it turned into like selfishness.
Yeah, selfishness is
and pride and all of those
all
things.
that stuff, yeah. Because you're literally putting the love, the things you want and the things you desire above your neighbor and his well-being and her well-being. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so I'm saying that again, when we look around and see how people are being, to see the things that people do, to see the way that people deal with each other, like I'm able to just say, like, you not dealing with that person as your neighbor, obviously, because I already know that I'm love my neighbor if I read the scriptures. But I want to look at this. I want to continue looking at this because when we look and see all these things, when you've done all of this stuff, right? We read this already. Let's read it again. Read verse 3.
Or has found what was lost and has lied concerning it, or did swear falsely, so that he sins in regard to any one of all these that a man does.
Keep going.
Then it shall be when he sins and shall be guilty, that he shall return what he took by robbery, or what he has extorted, or the deposit which was deposited with him, or the lost item which he found, or all that about which he swore falsely. He shall repay its total value, add 1/5 more to it, and give it to whom it belongs on the day of his guilt offering.
Okay, very interesting. This is a very interesting thing that happens over here with what you're responsible for when you treat your neighbor a certain way. It says you repay its total value and then add 20%. So if I mess around and I get you for $100,
You gotta give me what?
I gotta give you $100. I gotta give you your money back, and then I gotta add 20% on top of it.
Is that's for punitive damages?
Yeah, that's pain and suffering. I'm sorry, pain and suffering.
So you're not even right. You're not even right by returning what you took.
Right.
That's not what you responsible for. You responsible for what you took plus 20%.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, though, ain't it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But you, but it wasn't right.
Interesting.
But it wasn't rightly gotten. Anyway.
Pun intended. Okay, so I want to look at something over here because this is indeed interesting, isn't it? Because if we look at Deuteronomy 23 and 19. 23 and 19. What's that say right there?
Do not lend at interest to your brother, interest or silver, interest of food, or interest of whatever is lent at interest. To the foreigner, you lend at interest, but your brother, you do not lend at interest. So that Yahweh Elohim might bless you in all that you put your hand in the land, which you are entering to possess.
Okay, very good. So what we want to do over here, 19. This word that they give you over here that's translated as interest is usury. Okay, that word is usury. Usury. That's okay. So that's let's look at another verse real quick. That's Deuteronomy 23 and 19. Also in Exodus 22 and 25. What does it?
If you do lend silver to any of my people, the poor among you, you are not to be like one that lends on interest to him. Do not lay interest on him.
Okay, again, let's see. To him a usurer and usury. 5392, 5383. I assume those two words are related. Nasha, which is to lend or by reciprocity, borrow on security or interest, creditor, exact, extortioner, lend, user, taker of usury.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got all these words over: borrow, interest, creditor, extortioner.
Yeah, you're a criminal.
Right? And so how we get that in here with these other things over here, right? Let's see, rather identical with 5382. Which is to forget, to neglect, remove, deprive. I want to look at 5392. It says, don't be one that lends and then take neshek, which is another form over here of that word, which is translated as usury. And it just gives you usury, right? Debt, interest on the debt. Interest on the debt. This root, look, the root of it is to strike with a sting as a serpent, to oppress with interest on a loan, bite, lend upon usury. And so the root of this word that the Most High is saying that don't do this to the poor, don't do this to the poor. The root of that is this thing that is to strike with a sting as a serpent or to oppress. Okay.
So that's what banks been doing to us.
Yeah, I guess so. That's what these people do whenever they sit up here and you set up a mortgage and all that stuff. They take all their money off the top.
No,
You know what I'm saying? And
I
then
was
and then
like that, you know.
and then you start working towards a principle after the fact. But I'm saying that this word that's translated as usury, that the Most High is saying that you don't do to the poor, you don't do to your people. You could do it to a foreigner, but don't do it to your brother, right? Is this same word, this word usury, that's connected to this the root of it is to strike with a sting as a serpent or to oppress, right? And so then now when we look over here, he's saying if you do something wrong to your neighbor, guess what's gonna happen? You about to get struck with the sting like a serpent, just like you try to do to him. And so when we sit up here and treat our neighbor like a foreigner, the Most High said, guess what? I'm about to treat you like a foreigner now and have you be responsible for what you've done. You want to treat your neighbor like he's an outsider? I'm going to treat you like you an outsider. Pay it back and give him that 20% on top.
Or better yet, like what happened to me when I was working at Double Tree Hotel. And one of the brothers asked me, hey, you give me $20, I'll give you 60 back on payday. I jumped right on it too. Like, oh yeah, you ain't saying nothing. Boom. Hey, soon payday came, I had to pay extra on my light bill. You know?
So you ain't get it anyway.
I don't get it anyway. Right. So I got hit with that sting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, boom, you don't do that, then bam, take that with you.
Yeah. And so when we look at this thing, when we think about this idea of the payment that you're responsible for, as a result of defrauding your neighbor, you get the same treatment that you gave, because it was worse what you did than you just getting over on your whatever it was, your $100 or whatever, right? Because above that, you treated that person that you was dealing with, you treated them like an outsider by even doing them like that. So not only did you take from them, it's like you degraded them as a person.
Exactly. That's why these other nations do this to us directly. It's just like they went through the script and we're gonna do all this to them. And then like,
wait a minute, John. You want to thought this is a Christian nation.
Right.
This is a Christian nation.
Oh, but with the Christian nation, they have no favoritism. They want money for everybody.
Capitalism rules over all of this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And
they say Billy Graham helped bring capitalism into America.
Billy Graham,
he knew there was
the biggest gospel preacher ever. Billy Graham, first one filling up stadiums. Yeah. but when we think about this now, look what the Most High is doing. He's showing you, just like he already shown you, these things that you should, like we talking about, you would think that you would already know, but you obviously don't, right? But it's interesting that the way that he's judging the matter is the same way that the person is behaving, the way that he's trespassing or transgressing. When you sit up there and you rob or extort or lie about a deposit or a payment, or you find something that's your neighbor's and you all of these things, you're treating your neighbor like a foreigner. And so the Most High said, I'm going to treat you like one now. Give it back, whatever it's worth, and then put 20% on top of that.
Hey, that word foreigner, is that in the scriptures version too?
What verse was that? That was the Deuteronomy one.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that. What if somebody steals somebody's wife?
Hey, that happens
You know what I'm
too.
saying? They
But you
steal
gonna pay 'em
somebody's
back
not,
with?
you steal
Oh no,
somebody's girl.
well,
How
that's
you
not
gonna
part
do
of the
that?
That's
not on the
currency.
list.
If you steal my
It's
wife,
a-
you gotta give me
There's
back.
reason that's
There's
that.
a lot of that thievery going on.
Yeah, it's a different penalty for that.
That's a different penalty. Wow.
I did bring it down from wife to girlfriend. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you brought it down to
I don't
You
know.
know what happens when you're supposed to do.
I don't know if there is a
somebody's
such
wife.
thing as girlfriends.
Man, I gave you
Yeah.
a wife
Girl,
and
there
a
is no
girlfriend.
such thing.
I gave you a wife and a girlfriend back.
It's either a wife or somebody who's getting ready to be a wife.
Yeah, a wife or somebody's daughter.
Yeah.
What you doing?
Let's see.
Messed that one up.
Gare probably. What is it? Oh, Nakri. Nakri. Variety of degrees, foreign, non-relative, adulterous, different, alien, foreigner, outlandish, strange woman. Let's see, from 5235, no care or necare. Something strange that is unexpected calamity, stranger. So, this is somebody that you don't know. You don't have any dealings with. There's no connection to. It's not even it's not even like I wasn't expecting this word. It's not even like the ones who are among you. Right. This one's somebody who you don't even. This is just all about business. This don't got nothing to do with. There's no connection here. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how this word is used. What's that? That was 2052-37. "45 occurrences, strange, stranger, alien, strangers, aliens, foreigner, foreigners." Let's say we just randomly just picked one of these.
Ezra 10:14. Please let the leaders of all the assembly stand, and let all those in our cities who have taken foreign women come at appointed times, together with the elders and judges of their cities, until the burning wrath of our Elohim is turned away from us in this matter.
So we know that that's that word, that strange or foreigners. These people ended up having to get rid of their foreign wives and things. And so there's a word for stranger, there's another word for foreigner, but this one over here is dealing with, if we look at the context of that, they ended up getting rid of those foreigners. And so they treated them as if there wasn't no connection to them whatsoever. And so when we think about this idea over here, especially when we see that you being able to sting or strike somebody as a serpent, is those who you have no or should have no dealings with, right? Because they wasn't supposed to have no dealings with the with those strange women, right? So when we think about this, again, thinking about getting back to the purpose that the Most High has created for us, when we're getting back to the way that he had for us to operate in. One of the ways that he does this is by telling us about how we're supposed to be dealing with our neighbors. And then again, when we see how he judges the matter, we're given this penalty that is something that under normal circumstances we wouldn't deal with our people like that.
Exactly.
But again, this is a penalty.
Right.
This is not like just a normal practice. This is a judgment that you're receiving as a result of you not behaving the way that you naturally should behave. The beasts behave better than you whenever you get to this place of robbing your neighbor.
Right.
And so you're basically treated worse than a beast.
Exactly.
Because that's how you dealt with them.
Exactly. That you penalize. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like man, I don't want to say it. It's you're punishing yourself. It's like I don't know the way I can say it. It's like it's proving you don't love yourself. Just in a spiritual sense, you got people who can do it and don't care. But if a place was set up like this, you punishing yourself.
You don't love yourself. You don't love the Most High, and you don't love your neighbor. Right? You don't love the Most High because you're supposed to be operating in His image. You supposed to be walking around being a representative of the Most High. And so when you fail to do that, you're not loving the Most High. When you sit up here and do this thing against your brother, you obviously don't love him, because you're proving that you don't by treating him a certain kind of way. But you don't love yourself because you setting yourself up to receive judgment.
Exactly.
If you love yourself, you're gonna try to preserve yourself. Right? You're not going to do things that's counterproductive to your own goodness.
Exactly.
And so it's like you got all of these things going on all at the same time. Let's look over here.
It's like you're like real time judging yourself. With your actions.
Yeah.
You're real time judging yourself. That's funny. Like, you can't judge me. What are you talking about?
You judge yourself.
Yeah, you're judging
already
yourself just by saying that. Like, who do you think you are? Like, but man, it's a lot of layers.
A lot of madness out here, man.
Yeah.
All right, let's start reading at. Hold on, let me make this screen different.
I think people honestly aren't thinking a lot of things through.
No, you don't. You don't.
Definitely not.
You don't, and that's a main problem. But it's interesting that you kind of bring up, why do we gotta sit up here? Why do we gotta sit up here and talk about it? Why does the Most High gotta sit up here and put it in there? Because there's something that retards our growth. There's something that retards our growth,
and that's our carnality.
Causes us to not. It's our carnality. It causes us to not be able to do the things that we saw in the scripture already that we should naturally know, that the beasts know. And so, when we sit up here and when you think about, when you think about the people that made it into the land, the people that was 20 and below, The scripture says, I gotta find a scripture, that they didn't have the knowledge of good and evil. And so, no. That was the thing that let them be able to get in. Because their parents was the one that's transgressed, and none of them made it. And so the ones, the little ones is what they're called, the little ones, which was 20 and below, the ones who didn't have the knowledge of good and evil, was the ones that got in. And so when you look at the scientifically now, when we sit up here and look at our 18-year-olds that we send to war, or that we call adults, or even 21-year-olds, our brain really just gets to the place where it's fully developed when we're like in our like mid 20s.
Yeah.
And the last thing that that forms is your impulse reactions, your ability to think about the things that you're doing before you do it.
Really?
And connecting those two things together. And so when you got these young people out here, we sit and talk about these young people out here and killing each other and doing all this crazy stuff and having babies and doing all this craziness. It's just because, you know, you still a child. And you out here operating and functioning as an adult, and got all of these adult decisions that you got to make, and you're not ready to make them.
Yeah. Children make decisions on the peer group. So they don't base it on reasoning and, you know what I mean, a lot of things that adults do. They base it on what the crowd is going, like their peers, like whatever direction the peers are going in, that's the way they're going.
That makes sense. I was like, I never had many friends. It was like either one or two.
Yeah, if you don't have friends, you normally turned out better.
And I was just always going my way.
Yeah, because you don't have those.
I'm like,
it's
autonomous.
It's interesting because when you think about the way our society is really set up, and you know, I guess I'm starting to get a little older, but I still feel like I don't not remember what it was like to be a teenager. And I remember what had the most influence on me. And it wasn't what should have had the most influence on me. It wasn't like my parents and my the people that's raising me and morality and all of that. It's my buddies. Right? It's my friends. It's like peer pressure and things. This box right here, there's fun in that box. There's things that is categorized as a good time in this box. I got to be in that box, regardless of anything. Like it don't even matter. I need to be in that box.
Right.
And so the society that we're in, you know, for the most part, we send our young people away to be influenced and have all of these influences at this pivotal time, this kind of time that shapes and molds them. They're over there learning about what box they supposed to be in over there. They're being programmed. They're gonna be programmed anywhere it goes, but you supposed to be the one that's programmed.
Exactly.
And then somebody comes in and start putting viruses.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. This is the Matrix for real.
You could program all you want, but they're going over there. They don't got no malware. They don't got no firewalls.
Microsoft system. Microsoft system.
You know,
viruses killing
it. And so that's why when we see what happened with Israel in terms of going into the kingdom, he's like, I'm not going to sit up here. You older ones, you should have known better. But you younger ones, I'm going to let y'all get in because y'all didn't even have the knowledge of good and evil to even know. And he wasn't talking about no literal little babies. He was talking about ones that was 20 who we could look at and think, that's a full grown man at 20. But in their mind, you're not. You still just a little baby.
True.
Well, I was going to say, speaking to when you talked about the knowledge of good and evil, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking about this like heavy recently, and the knowledge of good and evil provided options.
Mm-hmm. Oh, think about the tree, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what Satan did to us is he provided us with another option
to make a choice.
Right. And so, experience is not always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because when people say, oh, yeah, I used to do it. Oh, yeah, I'm experienced. It actually, most of these experiences end up ruining people to be able to move forward properly in life because they know good and they know evil.
Yeah.
And they like evil. They know now that, oh, man, this feels good. This is,
Yeah, it turns out evil kind of feels nice.
Yeah. And so these options, the option of, knowing good and evil and to choose which option you want to choose, it actually just messes us up, man.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, now, what you're saying now is we get experience, though. It's like it's hindsight, because now I think we more than anybody, especially when you, at least most I guess wake you up to see the result of it. It's like now we seeing why he said not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the grandest scale you can imagine, for people to, as a whole people, experience the result of your actions.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And how important it is to listen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why when you talked about it's like he's talking to kids. It is. It is kids.
Yeah.
But just imagine this. Just imagine our daughters experiencing a Beyonce concert.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
How do you think that would affect
them?
They
probably think
it would set them back.
It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Right.
Dancing,
but it would set them back.
Oh, yes,
mentally.
of course. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah. It's terrible. It's terrible. The images and the standard over here that that our society causes our young people to look at as like the epitome of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so backwards that there's a lot of undoing that has to happen when people come into the knowledge of the truth. There's unlearning that you have to do before you even start to learn, because you've been shown your whole life that this is right. Meanwhile, it's actually wrong.
Right. And like we've seen and learned from firsthand experience,
yeah,
people fight that reprogramming process.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Yeah, it's a fight.
And that's and it's deep too, because for instance, you gotta think about it on the many levels of it. Say, you're on a farm and these are domesticated animals, so that's all they see and that's all they run with. So to get them to do whatever is easy. And then you just think about getting a wild animal, trying to domesticate a wild horse. They gotta get them and break them down. And I'm thinking but the proof of it is, I think, now look, we probably we all had our experience to get us where we at. And you got to think, I guess some people can have an experience, a non-threatening, life-threatening experience, and get put back on track. Even Paul, a good example. But I don't see no other institution or even in the church, because they be playing in the church, that's more effective than switching people's mindsets or reprogramming than the military.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it takes something if you're gonna be carnal, it takes extra carnal pressure. Because even us through destruction, the destruction that we've been through, we cry out, but we still don't get it. It's something we still ain't connected with. But the military people, everybody that goes, it's effective. You know, they got a certain dropout rate.
Okay, hold on. Talk about that some more real quick.
Okay. So it's deep. Like, that's heavy, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, basically, the world is set on a course that is totally anti everything we're learning. And literally, it's going to take an act of the Most High to get us right back where we need to be. I mean, I can't see no other way than a supernatural event happening to get us back on task because, you know, just they have to become children again. Just like the scripture says, is that like unless you are like one of these little ones, you will not no way enter the kingdom of heaven.
What's the child willing to do? Learn. Like they know that they're not. They shouldn't know. They know they don't know. They gotta listen, and they take correction, and they still. At the end of the day, after you correct them, they still love you, and they ain't got no malice or nothing. Then, like as you get older, that's like we prove it. We get older, be like, oh, that's why my mom or whatever told me this when I was young. Because look how much time it took you to realize or understand it. Going back to your mental developing in the 20s, and you get older, you're like, man, it all makes sense now. It comes full circle. So
and that's why, like, you know, I like when I read the scripture now, it's like I'm like, dang, man, like, you know, you wouldn't think he would have to say this to like grown people.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, wait a minute, what you doing? Yeah.
Right. And another thing I thought of is like, you know, the two parallels of the children of Israel, right, coming out of Egyptian captivity and him teaching them at that moment. And look at us right now, waking up to who we are, and how we're now coming back to the scripture, learning these same things.
Yeah.
It's like because we've been around these nations, learning these bad behaviors and these pagan practices and all of these different things, and we literally are now being taught like, no, we're not supposed to be celebrating these pagan holidays. No, we're not supposed to be, you know, treating our brothers the way we're treating them, killing them and shooting them and robbing them, and you know what I mean. So literally, I see the parallel in them coming out of Egypt and him giving them these instructions, and us today and where we're at today. Because like when we come out of here, it's going to be this all over again. It's literally because everything they probably learned in Egypt, the way they saw the Egyptians behaving, treating each other. Like, look at us now. Like, I remember a time where literally you couldn't walk past another person of color without saying hi or acknowledging them or smiling or, you know, good morning or how you doing?
Wow, I
never,
I've never seen that.
You didn't experience that.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you walk past somebody and everybody looks at you with hate.
Don't they?
Yeah.
Everybody looks at you with hate. And that's a learned behavior. That's something, there was a switch that happened. And now it's like we're acting just like they, you know, just like them.
Yeah.
We're more like them than we are the people we were like during slavery. You know what I'm saying? We had that brotherly love and taking care of each other and all of that. We had that. And then the more we got integrated, the more we became like we are today.
Yeah. And you know what? I got to agree with that. But I'm going to say this, though. I praise y'all because of my transformation. You know, I had told Maury Donahue when I came home, I said, before it's over and done with, before I leave here, I'm going to make being an Israelite a style. But it's much more than that, you know. But being that people see how I am today, it's wild how I used to go downtown and I'm spotting these young crowd. I mean, I think I mentioned this to you before, right? That the brothers is down there smoking weed, cussing, blah, 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 smack girls in the hand. and I'm walking past. They all stop. They stop all of a sudden. And look, they already used to me, so they'll say, "Shalom, shalom." How you say it? Ak? Shalom, Ak. I'm like, shalom, my brother. You know, so now that I've been pulled out of that and I'm set apart, people start to notice it. And when I walk past, I always greet everybody, especially if you're one of my brothers. And they always do it back. And even those that hate or even have a sense of hate, their defense system shut down because they know I'm not coming like that no more. You know, so they'll say, "What's up, man?" Like a little subtle one, right. But at least they said something.
Yeah, I get grown men apologizing when they cuss around me now.
Yeah,
like, oh, my bad.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
That's the power of the transformation.
Right, yeah.
Your light is shining, not by AAA batteries either.
They call me pastor on the job.
No, they pay pastor.
No, they do. That's not the name. He said,
Hey.
He's like, "I'm your pastor."
Shoot,
I'm
man.
like, I never said that.
So
you're a prophet. No, give me that title.
we have to understand, we have to be able to understand that just like how the Most High is doing with Israel, and how we're about to look at how Yeshua is doing with the people that he's speaking to, is that we have to know how we are supposed to be, and specifically what we're talking about today is be towards your neighbor, right? Let's look at Mark 12 and start reading at verse 28.
One of the scribes coming near, hearing them reasoning together, knowing that he had answered them well, asked him, "Which is the first command of all?" Yeshua answered him, "The first of all the commands is, Hear, O Israel, Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh is one, and you shall love Yahweh Elohim with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the first command. And the second, like it, is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other command greater than these." And the scribe said to him, "Well said, teacher. You have spoken the truth. For there is one Elohim, and there is no other besides him. And to love him with all the heart, and with all the understanding, and with all the being, and with all the strength, and to love one's neighbor as oneself is more than all the ascending offerings and offerings." And when Yeshua saw that, he answered wisely and said to him, "You are not far from the reign of Elohim." And after that, no one was bold enough to question him.
So you see over here, it's interesting that when we see over here the realization that this scribe has and Yeshua's response to it, where he says that he said, "You are not far from the reign of Elohim," after he said what he said up here in terms of loving the Most High and loving your neighbor as yourself. Now, what we're talking about is loving your neighbor as yourself. But even as we've seen in Leviticus chapter 6, you're not able to, when you transgress against your neighbor, you're also transgressing against the Most High. So you can't, it's impossible for you to sit up here and act like, and I'm saying act like on purpose. You can't sit up here and act like you have a particular love towards the Most High, and then you treat your neighbor a specific way, because he said over here, he asked him a question. He said, the scribe asked him a question. Which is the first command of all? The first thing we got to do is love the Most High. That's the first thing we got to do. But the second, he said, is like unto the first. And so when we think about the fact that man created in the image of the Most High, man is supposed to be walking around as a representation of the Almighty.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can't make a separation. We can't have this kind of a spiritual life that we live and the way that we feel about and treat the Most High, and then treat our neighbor just any old way.
Oh, we gotta go back a little bit though.
Go ahead.
We gotta extract what you just said though.
Go ahead.
Like you said, when Elohim created man, what did they say? Let's make man in our image.
Yeah, in our image and likeness.
And likeness.
Mm-hmm.
So that's mean when we looking at each other, we looking at the Most High.
Yeah, but like I was saying before, it's not. I was saying before. I gotta go back to the screen. When he said that, he wasn't talking about like looking at my wonderful face.
Don't worry, man. It's gonna be that long
Right?
one
It's
day.
one day. Yeah, you keep on working at it, and then it'll be there. You know what I'm saying? But we talking about the character of the Most High. Right? And so we supposed to be walking in the likeness and image of his character. Our purpose is to manifest the character of the Most High. And so I'm supposed to love the Most High, and I'm supposed to love my neighbor like unto myself. I'm saying the scriptures is saying like unto yourself. We thinking about actual real love, right? Not some type of perversion. And so when we see where the scriptures talk about do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself, right? When we look at Leviticus chapter 6, 1 through 5 or whatever that is, it's talking about you doing these things to your neighbor. It's giving you parameters upon which we're supposed to deal with our people, right? We're supposed to deal with our people the way that we would want to be dealt with, right? You wouldn't want for somebody to sit up here and to defraud on a loan or a promise, or to lie about a deposit, or to rob you, or to find something that's yours and then keep it. You wouldn't want for that to happen to you. You're right. You gotta sit up here and teach these little kids this. You wouldn't want, little Moshe wouldn't want for somebody to come over and snatch his toy away from him. But he'll go over there and snatch his toy away from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
He has to learn how to treat people. And the scriptures is helping for us. The scriptures is helping for us to understand. Yeshua said, you can't make it to the kingdom lest you be as a little child, lest you be as one of these over here, these little children. We have to learn how to actually be. And the scriptures provide that for us. But I'm saying that the realization that this individual has over here it seems like a simple thing, but if you had this realization and actually walk in it, he said, thou art not far from the kingdom of Elohim. When you understand that you have to love the Most High and that you have to love your neighbor as yourself. The whole scriptures, the whole law in the whole law hangs on those two things. Everything that we got in the Torah, we could take and put into one category. How we supposed to deal with the Most High, and how he's supposed to deal with mankind. The whole Bible is about how to love the Father and how to love people. And we can't sit up here and act like we love the Most High and we ain't loving his people.
Because what's deep is, how is the Most High, man? Unless he intervenes and comes directly to you, but it say no man has really seen his face. How do you know that the Most High exists? Like you can, because of his instructions, which is his spirit, on how you act. That's how we're proving that he exists. We're so if I look at you and we know what the Most High said, like he among us. That's what we are saying. You know what Yeshua said: 2 or 3 are gathered. That's in all that we're in the midst. So it's like you're trying to get people on the earth to live in harmony, literally, because you do this stuff, the whole earth goes, it's peace, as it, it said, and it's deep to how the foreigners or anybody that don't, that would upset the balance. So it's like they automatically become an enemy. I can see how the Most High would be like, all right, go to that city and just tear it down, no remembrance or nothing,
because they're not going to be following after the ways.
They're not going to do it.
And when we look at the problem with Israel will go over and they would take these foreign women or whatever, and then they will start doing the things that they instituted, as opposed to having them do the things that the Most High instituted. And so the problem always was, it wasn't just simple fact, don't just go with them, don't mess with them just because. Don't mess with them, because when you do it, you're going to go after their gods, their false gods. You gonna go after their false gods every time. That's what you're gonna do. And so, and again, when that happens, you're pulling away from the love of the Most High. Right? And so when we look over here and see how important that this is, we look at these commands over here that got to do with these little things that you may do against your neighbor. But again, like we started off saying, is that the first thing that it talks about is you sinning or trespassing or transgressing against the Most High first. Right? You sinned against him first. You found yourself in a state of having missed the mark first against the Most High. And then you could talk about what got you there, which was this thing that you did towards your neighbor.
Which they put in that order. Most High, don't love them with all your heart, and then go to the neighbor, because the first part is spiritual, then the second part is carnal. So if you controlling your spiritual part first, because we know that you're gonna start, the sin starts before you even move your body. So once you get control of that internal part, then it can be external. So all your actions is now, governed by, because it's like that first part, the Most High is supposed to be the barrier to your thoughts. It's like you just put away with it and let the evil come through and take over your body. And
yeah, exactly.
You know what, man? I was thinking about what you're saying, and my neighbor, like when I first moved in that area, right? And then over in Braddock Hills, there's a lot of uppity people, I think they better than. But I don't pay that no mind. They ask me, why am I so nice to everybody? And a couple of them know of my past. And they was like, man, you ain't nothing like that. What they was telling me. And I'm like, who was telling you what? You got some haters around you, man. You don't do that. He'll do this, blah, blah, blah. It was like, you're nothing like that. That was news to me, because I'm like, huh? They still talking about me like that? But they was like, you're nothing like that. You're sweet. You're a sweet person. We need more people like that. But that just reminded me. I was like, y'all letting me know, son, I appreciate what you're doing. You're doing what you're supposed to do. Sometimes he whispered to us through other people, man. Just gotta listen. You know what I mean? But that all that stuff is encouraging. And I'm gonna pat myself on the back because that's something I'm supposed to do. You know, that's like when Moshe or Hiskey used to clean up his room. He didn't run down and tell Maury Donahue, "Hey, Pops, I cleaned my room today."
No, he be doing that.
Yeah, but guess what, Hiskey? You're supposed to do that. You ain't supposed to get no reward for doing it.
And it's interesting that again, like when we looked over there at the verses over there in Sirach, that understanding that you loving your neighbor is as natural as what the beasts do naturally.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we think about this idea of dealing with our union with the Most High, those two things go hand in hand. What I show, if you love me, keep my commandments. Right? If you love me, keep my commandments. Proof that you love me is that you walk around and you do the things that I like. And so the Most High likes for you to love your neighbor as yourself. Right? And so if you're not doing that, then you obviously don't love
yourself.
Well, you don't love yourself or the Most High. But firstly, the Most High.
Because we're supposed to love our wives as we love ourselves. And not only that, love them as Yeshua loved the church and gave his life for the church. I was explaining that to one of my brothers, you know, one of my family members, you know, somewhere else. But I was explaining to him like that because they had this belief that I rule my wife with an iron hand, lead foot, all this stuff. I'm like, do you love yourself? Yeah. And you should also love your wife and be willing to die for her. Just like Hamashiach died for us, you know. Are you built like that? You know, do you really love yourself? Because of the way you be treating these women, hey brother, I don't think you really love yourself. That's all you giving them is what you built like. Because before you can love someone else, what it was always said, Chris, you must first love yourself. But in order to love yourself, you must first love y'all. Mm-hmm. You feel me?
That's the order right here that he gives us. That's the order that he gives us in terms of the first thing, the greatest command is to love the Most High. Mm-hmm. And the second one is like unto the first, and that is loving your neighbor as yourself.
And what did he say after that? On these two, what?
That's what the whole law is about. The whole law is about you manifesting the character of the Most High, which is the what true love actually is, right? And so when we think about these things again, it helps us, like we said already, it helps us to understand the penalty that you receive for doing these things against your neighbor, where the penalty involves something that seems, you know, that the scripture says is something that's saved for the foreigners, right? But because of the fact that you've treated your neighbor like a foreigner, then you too are treated like a foreigner in your penalty. So we want to go over to Luke chapter 10. We're going to probably end with this over here. We look at Luke chapter 10, starting with verse 25.
And see, a certain one learned in the Torah stood up, trying him and saying, Teacher, what shall I do to inherit everlasting life? And he said to him, What has been written in the Torah, how do you read it? And he answering said, You shall love Yahweh Elohim with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. Mm-hmm. And he said to him, You have answered rightly. Do this, and you shall live. Mm-hmm. It says, but he wishing to declare himself righteous, said to Yeshua, and who is my neighbor? And replying, Yeshua said, a certain man was going down from Jerusalem to Jethro and fell among robbers, who, both stripping and beating him, went away, leaving him half dead. And by coincidence, a certain priest was going down that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise, the Levite also, when he has come to the place and seeing, passed by the other side. And a certain Shamarian journeying came upon him, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. And he went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine. And having placed him on his own beast, he brought him to an inn and looked after him. And going out on the next day, he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said to him, look after him. Whatever more you spend, I shall repay you when I return. Who then of these 3 do you think was neighbor to him who fell among the robbers? And he said, he who showed compassion on him. Then Yeshua said to him, go and do likewise.
Interesting. So when we look at this, we always think about this in terms of, if somebody does right by you, that's your.
They killed this dog. That's crazy, man.
Right. So we think about it in that way, right? We think about, well, that's what it doesn't. He who shows compassion on him, that's your neighbor. But I think what we also have to understand is that those other people who actually was his neighbor, how they wasn't acting as if they was his neighbor, right? We got to understand it was 3 groups of people, how the 2 of the 3, actually how all 3 was acting outside of their character of who they were supposed to have been. The one who wasn't a neighbor acted like a neighbor. So he was outside of the character that he was supposed to be. And then the other 2 that was a neighbor didn't act like a neighbor. And so we're able to see over here, which something that we already saw in terms of the way that we're supposed to be treating our neighbor. This guy went over and above.
Yeah.
But that's what is called, that's what you're supposed to do. Go over and above for your neighbor. And so it says to love your neighbor as yourself. You most certainly go over and above for your own self. You get nothing but the choicest things for your own self. I'll sit up here and get, whatever. We supposed to get so and so for such and such. Hey, don't get them that one. Get them the one from off the bottom shelf over there. Mm-hmm. Don't get them that one. That costs this much. I mean, I would get that for myself, but I ain't gonna get that for so and so. That's how we be. Hold on, they want what? All right, just get them the generic can. Get them one with the white. Remember the potato chips, as you said, a white bag with the black letters on it?
The chips.
Where them chips at? They don't got them chips no more. They still got generic chips, but they don't look like generic back in the day. Generic back in the day really looked generic. It was literally just a white bag with black letters on it.
They even had a whole owl for it. The generic owl, remember? When you go back in there, everything was matching.
Everything got a name brand nowadays. Everything got a name brand. Yeah. But back in the days, there was a generic. And I'm saying that for yourself, you're gonna get the name brand. And that's how you supposed to deal with your neighbor though. And so he's showing you, we learning two things over here. First of all, we learning that we're continuing to learn that there's a way that we should be dealing with our own people. There's a way that we should be dealing with our own people. Right? However, the compassion of a people who is not your people is just as good, if not better, than what you will get from them. Because we see over here, this person, Samaritan, is supposed to be like, at this point in time, they're like the arch nemesis over here. The Samaritans is saying that we the people, and Israel, of course, is saying that they the people, right? Somebody's wrong, right? But it's the Samaritan that's the one who really exhibiting the character of the Most High over here. So we can't always sit up here and look at people and deal with them based on what we think that they are. Because according to this parable over here, it was about the actions. It was about the heart of the person. It was about what they actually did over here. It didn't matter that they was a Samaritan. It mattered that they saw the person over there and they did all of these things for the person. But I'm saying not only does it say that, but it also tells you the shortcomings of the people that was supposed, that literally is the neighbor that wasn't acting as a neighbor. And I think that's the part that I want to kind of accentuate over here, because we're talking about your neighbor, right? We're talking about the way that you should be as a neighbor. We can't sit up here and allow for somebody who isn't a neighbor to be more neighborly than you.
And we've seen that. I've seen it before, happened to me. Like, when you walk a certain way, and it can happen. Like, our people, walk over each other, and that's why I'm like, how is there so many homeless people? If this is supposed to be, the scriptures got like stuff like that in it for, it's just like it's a lie.
Nobody cares. Nobody really cares about anything, but it's just selfishness. It really, at the end of the day, it's just selfishness. I got to do me. I got to worry about myself. I got to worry about these people that I actually know that came out of my body. There's other people.
You just talked about every song that's out right now. I gotta do me. I gotta worry about myself. It's all about me. Like, that's every song, and not just hip hop. That's all the songs. All the music now. Yeah. It's my life. You know what I'm saying? It's all about being selfish.
Yeah.
That is the way of the world. It's selfishness.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when we look at this over here, them people were selfish. Them two people, that the priest and the Levite that they saw over there, they could have intervened. But hold on, if I sit up here, I'm going. If I get tied up in that, that's gonna set my schedule up. I'm just gonna cross the street and walk over here. I'm pretend like I ain't. We be doing that sometimes. We be doing that, looking and seeing people who need help, and just be like, well, I could help, but I got this thing I'm doing over here. I don't want to be late. Right? And so I'm saying that when we look over here, again, basing all of this off of Leviticus chapter 6, there is a way that we need to be dealing with those who we say out of our mouth is our neighbor. Like, we can't, if you say it, then you got to own that. And you can't put them, and they can't be in two separate categories simultaneously, right? We have to be able to deal with our neighbor in a particular way. And if you're not doing it, the scriptures is calling you a liar.
Yeah.
Because the second thing is like unto the first. If I'm not loving my neighbor as myself, then there's a connection between that and how I'm loving the Most High. Because when we looked over there in Leviticus chapter 6, nothing that is in those lists is something that directly is towards the Most High, but it's indirectly towards them because you're not loving his people right. You're not exhibiting his character right. You're not walking in your purpose right. Right? You're not exhibiting the character of the Most High the way that you was created to do when you sit up here and you rob your neighbor, right? When you do these things that's against your neighbor. Okay, so we look at, just kind of closing it down, we look at Leviticus chapter 6 when it talks about these commands that are connected with things that you do against your neighbor that's also against your heavenly Father. We want to be able to be real, true representatives of the Most High, and walk in a way that exhibits his character, that shines his light, that causes us to actually look like we're in the likeness and image of the Most High, right? And learn to really, and again, when we think about these verses, when it comes to be known that you've wronged these people, whenever you bring your offering, that's when you pay the thing back, right? That's when you pay the thing back. We talked about this verse the last week and talking about putting your gift down or rectifying with your brother and then presenting your gift. That's the same thing we seen over here in Leviticus. When you brought that offering, you didn't bring that offering except if you had already, you at the same time, you're bringing your payment that you stole plus your 20%, plus your offering, all at the same time, right? And so when we say that we are followers of Yeshua, right? We're Israel. We're walking in this light. We're being light and salt in the earth. There's a way that we need to be walking around being, right? We can't be, again, when we looked in Leviticus, it talks about the fact that the altar is always on fire. It's always ready to receive your offering. But he don't want your offering unless your things have been rectified. And so things that we do as followers of Messiah is we should be out here rectifying our things, our situations, right? That's how we love our neighbor, not just having our situations just be in limbo. We out here fixing things with people. That's our neighbor, right? We ain't letting things just be obscure and kind of just pushed to the side. We're dealing with those things. If I wronged you, I'm gonna pay you back because I only wronged you because I was treating you like an outsider in the first place. But now I'm gonna treat you like an insider, and I'm gonna also go on top of that because I never should have treated you like that. I never should have demeaned you as a human being and treated you like a foreigner that does not connected to me in any way, right? And so we have to learn how, because naturally we're going to just be selfish, right? Naturally, we're just going to just do things that's pleasing to our own self. And if I'm robbing somebody, I'm doing something that's pleasing to my own self, right? If I'm stealing or lying about these things or fattening something that I know is yours and keeping it. It's all about my own pleasure. But we got to think about the fact that when we're doing that thing that is good for us, at the same time is doing something negative, is hurting somebody else, right? When we live a life that's self-serving, there's somebody that's going to be hurt by your selfishness. And according to the scriptures, the scriptures is making provisions for you not to be doing that. In fact, it's showing that from a spiritual perspective, naturally you're supposed to be not doing that. Right? And even the beast, even the animals know the difference. Okay. So at the end of the day, what are you? Right? What are you? Are you an animal? Right? Are you better than an animal or not? Right? We could just that sums it all up. Huh?
Beneath an animal, because animals, they know how to behave.
No, animals.
No,
yeah.
but we're supposed to be doing it though. We're supposed to be doing these things.
Oh yeah.
We're not.
Well,
An animal, unfortunately, is they just naturally do it. Yep. We have to do it as a result of our connection to the Most High and walking in the Ruach HaKodesh. But I'm saying in the spirit, in the Ruach, we can't be in that that level that's animalistic. Yeah. We got to rise above it so that we can at least be level. We got to rise above our own carnality so that we can be even with the beasts. Yeah. But this is what is required of us, right? And when we look back at the words of Yeshua, when this guy has this realization of the fact that these two most important things, when he had that revelation, when he had that realization to know that, he said, look, you can't even imagine how close you are to the kingdom of Elohim just by knowing that. Right? Exactly. Thou art not far from the kingdom of Elohim just based on the fact that you understand those two things, which are obviously the two greatest things that there is to know in all of Scripture.
What's deep to me is like you got all these nations. There's so many nations and different types of people and belief systems. Mm-hmm. Ain't none of them living in harmony or peace like the scriptures say to do.
Yeah,
like none of them. No, none of their gods or whatever they put together or divine books they got bring harmony like this book says we are to do. And it's like it just proves it.
Yeah.
Because why would the Most High create a creation that we're the piece that destroys it? Like you do the right thing, you sustain it, it's beautiful, but you just take it off. You just decide not to be what you made for, or you destroy everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I make it real simple for folks?
Go ahead.
Sure.
So what Yeshua said is like clear to me now. Like literally, you know how we believe, like when we sin, right? When we sin, we pray, we repent, saying we're going the other way. But almost every sin you commit is against your neighbor. When you lie, you bear false witness, you fornicate, all of these different things that you do, you kill, all of that. It's actually somebody that you're doing it to. And it's your neighbor.
They're having them participate in
it. Yeah. You're not doing this you're not killing yourself. You're not lying to yourself.
Mm,
You're not lying to yourself.
yeah.
So all of these things that he tells us not to do are actually to protect, us from how we treat each other. It's to show us how we should treat each other.
Yeah.
And how we should love our neighbor as ourselves. And so when you are breaking the commandments, you're actually breaking it against your neighbor. And
That's deep, because it's like when he gets to the part in the scriptures where he said y'all wanted to be like the other nations and have somebody rule over you, a king, so I gave you one. But with the law, that's perfect government.
mm-hmm.
You don't need these different orders of government and this tell you this and that. If we had the priest there or whatever, that was perfect governance.
Mhm.
The book is perfect governance.
Yeah.
Right.
I can go right. It say go to the neighbor. Don't say go to the judge down at the court office and file a complaint. And it's like you resolved all this stuff. So like harmony would just be throughout the community, through the city, through the tribe, through the nation.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so, just like anything else, when we look at these scriptures, these Torah, at the end of the day, it's just getting us, back to doing and being the people that the Most High has for us to be. And, it shows us how to exhibit, how to manifest his character. And so, we have to really, really look at ourselves and examine the things that we do, to know, are we really loving our neighbor right? Right? Are we really loving the Most High right? Right? Are we really doing the things? Are we treating, these people, the way that we will want to be treated, right? And if we not, then, we have to repent and start doing something different, right? Because it's not just about us just finding out what the Most High wants for us to be doing, but once you found out, then you took your offering to the altar, right? Once you saw that you was guilty, right, you rectified it. And that's what we in our life we have to be continually doing, looking at ourselves and seeing, where it is that we fall short, and rectifying the situation. Not just saying, well, that's how I am. That's how I was raised. You know what I mean? And so, this life that we live is about transformation, right? It's about moving forward. It's about that our switch, our righteousness switch is broken. That thing does not turn off. That thing is broke. This switch ain't worked in 20 years. It just always on, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we got to be about.
You know what? I want to say something about regarding unity as being your neighbor and we as one. When I saw that little video about how those bumblebees, remember that, Chris? The bumblebees swimming in the back of that car. There was so many of them on there for 2 days. What they were trying to do is they seen the queen trapped inside the car. They was working their behinds off trying to find a way to get her up out of there. But the person who was driving the car was so amazed. Like, oh, wow, why are you still here? And I saw that. I said, wow, we can learn from that. We can really learn from that. So I think about the ways of the animals and the way of the insects. In that aspect, they are better than us, But we're supposed to be above them,
Yeah.
It's amazing how that happened. But one day we will all see eye to eye. We will be unitized.
And again, the key to all that is walking in the spirit, right? It's us and our carnality that causes us to be out of balance, right? When we're in balance, when we're doing things according to the way that the Most High set for us to be, you know, we're the ones who's putting everything in order in nature, right? But we got to first be rejoined back to the Father, and then our connection or reconnection with the Most High is a thing that brings order back to everything that we deal with, because we're putting His ways in place in everything that we do. Okay, all right. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and be done for today. We thank everybody for coming. Remember to like, subscribe, comment. We love to see your comments. Share the video, get our subscribers up, so that we can continue to spread this word as far as we can. Okay. All right. So that being said, for now we'll say Shabbat Shalom. And
Shabbat shalom. Thanks
y'all
for tuning in.
Y'all willing, we'll be back on next Shabbat.